Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas. It has been a surreal couple of days with the country and indeed the world reacting to the tragic death of George Floyd. Yesterday we saw Weston McKennie pay tribute with a Justice for Floyd armband. Today Borussia Monchengladbach's Marcus Thuram took a knee in tribute to the protests going on around the United States after scoring. And also in today's game, we saw both Jadon, Sancho and Hakimi reveal justice for George Floyd after their respective goals. Well, Shaka Hislop, Frank Leboeuf and Craig Burley are with us. Shaka, I want to start with you. This tragic death and indeed the protests that have followed seem to have resonated throughout the football world.
Yeah, and understandably so, Dan. Listen, it was Martin Luther King who first said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And that's what you're seeing now. You're seeing footballers using their platforms to push for justice everywhere. This is not just a matter of support for George Floyd. It's not just about black and disenfranchised communities here in the US. This is about injustice everywhere. Sportsmen, I believe, have a responsibility to use their platform to drive social change. You saw that with the peaceful protests of Colin Kaepernick a couple of years ago, in which he was vilified. A peaceful protest that even pushed the US Soccer Federation to pass legislation and to instruct players not to kneel during the national anthem themselves. They have a responsibility in what we're seeing playing out before our very eyes right now. And until everybody accepts that responsibility, until everybody recognizes the hurt, the disenfranchisement of those communities that are playing out during a global pandemic that has also affected the black and communities of color disproportionately from everyone else. Until we start to recognize that, we continue to have these discussions. We continue to see the lives of black men taken in front of camera before our own very eyes. And unfortunately, we just keep having these discussions round and round in circles. Riots will continue until something is done, until something is changed.
Frank?
Yeah, I like to see football players, showing to the world that they don't just live in their world, but they pay attention to what's going on in the world. We talk about the educational aspect of football, and I think denouncing injustice is part of the education that we all have to get. We do have differences of culture, but we all go together to denounce injustice. We saw the FIFA or the UEFA with the Champions League asking all captains to wear an armband saying no racism. So politics is already in our world, a world of football. So I think it's not something that I don't like when I see a player just saying what he is denouncing, and I wasn't surprised to see Marcus Thuram, for example, because I know Lilian, my former teammate, who works for a charity to make sure that injustice will stop in the world.
Craig?
Well, as Shaka said, sports people in particular, footballers have a platform. And I think it's no surprise that the players are using this platform to show their support and their unity. The black players in particular and others have been fighting to get racism out of football for years and years and years now. It was something we talked about before lockdown, where this continued, particularly in Italy, where there was a lot of serious incidents. It happened in other countries, but particularly in Italy. So the players themselves recognise how problematic this is. And when you see an incident as serious as the one that happened here in America with a man losing his life, it's no surprise to see players coming out and support, particularly the black players. And I think we're going to see more and more of that from all corners and from all different groups coming out and support. And I'm sure we'll see teammates supporting other teammates as well, as they have done when players have been racially abused from the crowds, from supporters. So it's something the players have been fighting against for years and years. And as I say, when they see it happening on the streets to the public, and it is so public and it is on camera and it is so clear, it is understandable, Dan, that the players are going to show unity to individuals.
Last word on this for you, Shaq.
Yeah, I think, listen, for all of us, it's time for us to have some of those uncomfortable conversations about dealing with racism and how it's affected people in the communities that I'm from, that I grew up in, that I continue to live in. At the same time, it's got to go a whole lot further than just those discussions. We have to have those talks with our kids as well. And at the highest ends of both our not just in politics, but in football and governing bodies, I am also recognizing that this is a show that largely talks about football. And Frank spoke about it, about the acts that UEFA and in particular FIFA have enacted. Players walk out with armbands that say no to racism, yet at the highest levels in Zurich, Gianni Infantino, in one of his first acts as becoming FIFA president, disbanded the FIFA Commission on racism. Offering a rather flimsy excuse that the fight against racism is a fight for all of us. I mean, at some point, somebody has to show some leadership in dealing with the ills of society and how they impact the game that we love.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week, subscribe to ESPN+.